what we're looking for here, remember, is we want to see the breakout of the trade. We want to have all of the signals hit. So I'm reading. I've got this in front of me here. I've got my rules for the bearish and the bullish setup. I've got it right in front of me, and I'm going to try to read it off instead of doing it in my head. I'm going to try to read it. But what I'm looking at is this picture right here. So you guys should have that. And this is great because you can just go down a checklist. Okay? So that's what we're going to do here tonight. And this is how you can test a system. And so the first thing we want to do is we want to kind of establish a general trigger area, a general alert area. And you could do this a couple of ways. Trade Navigator has a little alert tool where you can come in here and you can set it in there. For tonight, it's not really practical because what we want to do is we just want to let ourselves know when it happens. And so I'm going to actually just use our support and resistance tool. I'll use one across the top. And I'll make this one orange. And we'll make it a big, thick line, and anytime we cross above that, it will be a bullish alert, not a trigger, but an alert. And anytime we cross below it, it will be a bearish alert. And just because it's alert, it doesn't mean we're going to take the trade. And then for a bullish trigger and a bearish trigger, we will use red and green. Well, let's change that. Let's do... for a bullish trigger, we'll do green. That makes the most sense. But I like to use red for my stops. So let's use maybe blue for a bearish trigger. That'll give us some color coding we can work with. And this little trigger is hanging out until he gets utilized. We don't have a bullish or bearish trigger at this point. So he's just going to kind of sit over here. I will add another one. I'll just kind of get set up for the rest of this stuff here. We'll add a blue one in here. And you don't have to be this color coordinated when you do it. I'm just trying to make it easier for us to communicate. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to establish an alert zone, and I've really already done that. We want an alert when we come up into just below where our breakout point will be. Where our breakout point is going to be a swing high. And so we can see our most recent swing highs are up here. And so we're going to put an alert about 197.61. If we get a move above that, then it will alert us and it will say, hey, pound dollar's trading above 197.61, alert, alert. If it starts to trade below 191.29, we'll get that same alert. We may adjust that moving forward depending on what the clouds do, but right now that's where the price would have moved below Senkou B. And we're not going to even consider a bearish trade until price is below the cloud. Okay? So with that in mind, watch how we're going to do this. I'm going to move this pretty quickly because that's really all we need to do. We don't have to sit here and go day by day. So we're going to move it the next day here and the next day, and I'm just going to chug along until I get a trigger. And notice that we're staying out of the trade because we've got some boundaries put on here. And this is really one of my favorite benefits of the clouds is that it really, for the most part, will limit you into trending trades. Okay, now there's kind of an alert. We got a little move above it. And so what we can say is we can say, well, I got an intraday move. Can you guys see that on the screen? Yeah, you can see that on the screen. We got an intraday move above our alert zone. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, let's put a bullish trigger in here. Now, my bullish trigger needs to go around my swing high point plus my buffer. What was my buffer? My buffer was 50. So there's my swing high. And then what I can do is I can edit this, and I can just add 50 to that. So that would put me at 199.09 if I did my math correctly. 199.09, and boom, there's our buffer. Now, before I go any further, those of you who've seen me set up a lot of trades, notice that 50 pip buffer, notice how close that looks to the visual that I naturally set up in Power Trader. You see that? I don't have to sit here. I never sit here and actually calculate a buffer. I don't actually do that. But I think this is a more quantitative way for you to do it. But I just want to draw the connection that look at how similar that is. If you're used to me setting up triggers in Power Trader, look how close that is. I would naturally come pretty close visually to the average true range in there. You see that? And so I think that that's a distinction for you. You can choose if you want to actually set an actual buffer with a specific price amount, or if you want to do more of the visual. I don't care. I'm fine with you going either way. All right, we've set our bullish trigger. Let's continue trading this thing forward, and we're going to haul through some time here. And boom, we hit a trigger at 199.09. So for better or worse, the trade triggered. And so we're going to go mark it down. That was January 23rd, 2007. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here, and we'll see how well this goes. January 23rd, 07. And the entry was 199.09. Okay, now the next thing that we want to do is we got to go set ourselves a stop, right? So what are our rules for setting the stop? Oh, by the way, I forgot to do our checklist here. Before doing our trade entry, are we above the cloud? Check. We're above the cloud. Is Tenkan above Kijun? Check. It's above Kijun. Is Chiku in the clear? Well, yep, Chiku is in the clear. Right there, Chiku's in the clear. Is there any other resistance that we should be worried about? I think we're pretty much above the known resistances that we've got in here. If I go back far enough, I don't see any other resistance. I see no other major reason that we should have a hang-up here. Is the future cloud bullish? Yes, future cloud is bullish, Kimberly. Both lines are going up. Obviously, future cloud is bullish. Is Tenkan pointing up? Yep, Tenkan is pointing up. Great. Is there any reason to not place this based on what we've got in front of us? And I think that the answer is no. I think we're pretty clear on this trade. Now, Timothy is pointing out that the Chiku is getting pretty close to your cloud or to your price action right here. It's actually just broken above it. There, Tim. Now, we do have a little bit of resistance here that Chiku has not gotten above. It's because we got a shooting star here. And were we to close like this, I probably would not enter this trade based on a shooting star. That would not be my favorite entry. However, we're trying to test a system. And so what we're trying to do here, Tim, is we're trying to say if we did this very black and white, without a whole lot of room for variation, would it be working? And so I'm going to take some of these trades that maybe the naked eye we would educate ourselves out of it. Does that make sense there, Tim? And then in our conversation at the end of the evening when we do our observations, Tim, these will be some of the observations that we make in the process. So it's a good point that you made there, and I just wanted to acknowledge that. All right, so again, based on what Tim said, let me draw your attention to it. I think he is absolutely correct. I think that there's a high probability that this would flip against us. I want to make that statement. However, I'm trying to make this quantitative as much as possible, and then we'll make the observations of how you might tweak on it. So we're going to enter this trade at 199.09 for better or worse. I'm not saying it's going to be a great trade. We're just going to do it, and we're going to see what happens. Next thing we want to do is we want to set our stop at Kijun minus the buffer. So we're going to bring our stop in here. I never set that up, so let's get us a red point here. This will be our stop. And again, you're going to notice that this visually looks a lot like what you're used to seeing me set up. If I can get the line to move. There we go. So Kijun is right here. And we're going to go down just a little bit from there, and we're going to get approximately 50. Kijun, oh my goodness, what did I just do? Did I exit out? Huh. Well, Cradola, let's go back and do our replay again. When did we start? 07? My goodness. My goodness, what a pain. I don't know how I just exited out of that. Oh, I set up an extra one somehow. Huh. Somehow I exited that. My deepest apologies. So, where were we? We were on the shooting star. My deepest apologies. This really makes my class not as interesting. There's the shooting star. We had set ourselves up with a alert right around in here. I'm going to make that a little bit fatter for us so that we can see that. We had set ourselves up with a trigger at 199.09, I believe it was. And notice we just barely got triggered. So when we start to test this, we'll see if that trigger was Maybe the buffer's not big enough. I don't know. We'll find out. We're going to change that to green, and then I was setting a stop in here, and that's what we were in the middle of. And we were going to go just about 50 pips below our Kijun. Kijun is reading 195.88, so we will go 195. $38. Now look where I naturally drew it. I naturally drew it at 195.41. I was 3 pips higher than what my my buffer setting is. So that just kind of gives you an idea that if you get used to doing it visually the way I've been doing it for all these years, you'll get pretty close to that buffer. It's kind of about a third to half of ATR. All right, there we have it. So there's our trade setup. Now we're going to move it forward and see what happens the next trading day. Big bearish candle. Okay, now what do you do when you have a big bearish engulfing candle following a shooting star? Well, we got to tighten the stops, and we're starting to wonder if we should have made the trade. I mean, that's just a natural conclusion. Now, the first thing I'm going to notice if I'm looking at this is I'm going to say, well, I'm below the tin can, so I don't want to set my stop there. I'm just going to adjust my stop up, and I'm going to make it a little bit tighter than it was. Okay, so it's just going to be a little bit tighter than it was right below Kijun in here, and that's going to put us about 95.63. Kijun stayed at 95.88 again, but because of the bearish engulfing, I would be a little bit more nervous about it, so we're just going to tighten it up just a little bit, move it forward another trading day. Next day, another little bearish day. Notice how Kijun is staying flat. So Kimberly, as Kijun stays flat, and as she asked tonight, what happens if the price is in the middle? Well, we've got some consolidation happening there, Kimberly. You see that? Price is in the middle, right there between the two. And let's move it forward again. Let's see what happens. And boom, we stopped out at 195.63. So now you don't need to be emotional about this. 195.63. What we're doing when we do back trading like this is we're testing the system. And you don't really care if it's good or bad. It's not a win or a loss for you. You're simply just getting data. And as I said earlier tonight, I said we're going to test these numbers, and we're going to find out if these numbers are the right ones for this currency. I may be off. By the time we're done, we may make some adjustments. And we may say if we're trading that currency pair, that we make some adjustments. I just did the math. It's a loss of 346 pips. So we lost 346 pips on that sucker. Okay? All right. Now, what do we do next? Well, we're no longer in a trade. For visual simplicity, I will pull these down here so they are out of the way, and we're going to set ourselves up for another alert. Again, we could go for a bullish or a bearish alert, so I'm going to just scoot this alert over. If it comes back up, we'll have a bullish alert, and only if we drop below the cloud, we'll have a bearish alert. And we're going to sit on our hands, and we're going to wait. Now, you notice we've just gone through a month here. We had one bad trade. We've gone through a month. And let's see where the trade goes from here. Notice I'm not actually interpreting a whole lot of data day to day. I'm waiting for the trade to come to me, waiting for it to alert. And I got a lot of consolidation here. Lots and lots of consolidation. So I'm just moving this sucker forward. We're now into the middle of February. And the clouds are getting very thin in the future. In the present, they're still quite thick, and we're getting that consolidation. Okay? So lots and lots of consolidation in here. And you find this in currency a lot where we get stuck. Okay, bingo. We're below the clouds, so we're getting close to an alert, even though I have not adjusted my alert up. And as I look at this, Chiku will be clearing the cloud around the same alert level, so we will leave that for now. But other signals are starting to set up, and we'll see what happens. And we're just moving this sucker forward. And notice we're still stuck. Okay, so let's stop for a minute, talk about signals. Yeah, the future cloud's turning bearish. Chiku and Tin Can are turning bearish, Tin Can and Kijun are turning bearish. But you notice how the Chiku is still stuck over here, and in fact, that's reality. That's exactly what's happening in the in the present here. It's just stuck in some consolidation. So let's continue, and we'll see where this sucker goes. And there's really not much to interpret on the day-to-day while we're waiting to get out of consolidation. This is a huge consolidation, very frustrating if you're in the middle of it trying to swing trade it. That's the benefit that the clouds give you. Look at how we're avoiding all that because we can see it clearly. For a brief moment, I'm going to take the clouds off, and notice how tempted you would be to try to trade all that. How many of you would be really tempted to try to trade that if you didn't see the cloud picture? And with the clouds on there, it becomes pretty clear. You're like, yeah, there's a lot of consolidation. I don't need to mess with that sucker. You see how at a glance we get a very interesting, clear indication? And we just say, yeah, it's on consolidation. Why mess with it? Okay? Bingo, we've just re-triggered our alert. We did not trigger the trade, but we triggered the alert. Let's go through our checklist. Is the price above the cloud? Yes, it is. Is the tin can above Kijun? Yes, it is. Is the Chiku in the clear? Just about. We'll set a trigger up here where it will be in the clear. Is there any other obvious resistance? We have that swing high that kind of caught us off guard back in January. It's April now. Is there future cloud bullish? It is bullish. Is tin can pointing up? It is pointing up. Is there any reason to not set up this bullish trade based on this picture right here? And I'm going to suggest that there's really no reason, no logical or good reason to avoid setting up that bullish trade based on this picture. And so what we're going to do is we're going to set the trade up. So let's pull our bullish trigger up. And let's go up here to a highest high, and let's add a little bit to it. So our highest high came in at 99.16. We will go on up here to 66 and give ourselves our standard 50. Well, I got it at 64. But it's not. Let's respace it. There we go. Just to be particular about this, we'll make it 66. All right, and there you have it. Let's run this sucker forward and see if we ever trigger this trade. So running it forward, so far nothing has triggered. Continuing it forward here, nothing's triggered. Continuing it forward, nothing has triggered. Well, so far, we're getting close. Oh, bingo, there we triggered it. Okay, so we triggered it at 199.66. So we're going to come over here. The day for that was April 17th. So we'll just come over here and we're going to mark this down here. 4/17/07. What was our trigger on that? 99.66. Okay, and where do we want to put a stop? We want to put a stop right up here under Kijun minus our buffer. Did I get rid of all stops here? There's my stop. I knew I had it in there. All right, we'll pull up our stop over here. Kijun is at 96.48. If we subtract 50 from that, that would put our stop about 95. It's hard to do this when I got a pen in my hand. 95.98 is where it should be. And you can see it in there. Okay, is this beneficial to you guys? You see how this whole process starts to come together here? We're just testing it to put this thing into perspective for a system here. All right, so we've entered at 99.66. We got our stop at 95.98. Let's move this sucker forward, and there is a high wave candle. All right, get a high wave candle. Is that an early reversal signal? Should we do something about it? Well, based on our trading signals that we've got here, the answer is yes. If the candlesticks present a reversal, adjust your stop to be equal with the Senku A. There becomes your first reversal, and we're a long ways from it. So we're going to come up here to Senku A. That's the top of the cloud. And every day that more reversal comes in, we can tighten it if we wish to. Next day, we got an evening star reversal. This is a very bearish signal. Evening star reversal, I'm going to tighten it a little bit further. I'm going to come all the way to to tin can. Keep naming those backwards half the time here. And the next day, we got a little doji in there. Moved it a little bit higher. We'll continue to tighten this thing up here. My hunch is we'll stop out of this one. And maybe not. And there it is. Sorry, I should have adjusted my stop. We should have stopped out right there on the tin can. So we stop out at 99.75. Okay, so we'll come back over here as we adjusted so tightly. 99.75. We actually made, it's a miracle, but we made 11 pips on this. So 1.9975. That's our exit. And so we made 9 pips on this. All right, so profitable trade. Yippee. All right, let's continue our trade setups through here, and we will move forward. And you notice all I'm doing here is I'm mixing all of our signals together. We're going to set a new breakout up here, and we'll say alert us if we're above $2.55 pips, and give us a bearish alert if and when we start to break below Senkou B. And we'll continue moving forward here. Okay, so take a note here also. You don't get a lot of primary trends. And, here we've been trading this thing since January. We're in the middle of the 4th month. We've had 2 trades. One of them was a dud. One of them was kind of break even. And that's really all that we've got on this trade thus far. Okay, let's see what happens moving forward. We're kind of setting this thing up for a possible bullish continuation. Does it look like it could be a bullish continuation? Well, yeah, we've got all the signals. Chiku is above everything. Tin cans on top. The cloud is obviously bullish here. Kijun is starting to consolidate here. I don't have tin can pointing up, however. And so we'll avoid this trade setup until maybe we get some more of that confirmation in there. And boom, there's a bearish candle, and it looks like we got some more consolidation. By the way, the cloud does suggest that there's some consolidation coming, and sure enough, there it is. So we'll continue trading it sideways here, doing nothing, just waiting and waiting and waiting. It's like watching paint dry to watch these things shape up, I'm telling you. But there we go. Like watching paint dry, but when you get the signals, you can pay attention to them. This exercise right here tells you why a day trader does not want to use this system on a daily chart. Maybe on an intraday chart, but not on a daily chart. All right, do we get any kind of bearish alerts coming up here? Maybe. We're stuck in the cloud. And, this is really interesting because I managed to pick us a currency pair where for 6 months, we've been in consolidation, basically. And let's see if we get any kind of alerts. Nope, we're still stuck in the cloud. Still stuck. Bingo, there's another alert. Is everything in the clear for this? Everything appears to be in the clear. We will take the highest high up here, and we're going to add 50 to it. So we'll bring our bullish trigger up top, and we're going to add 50. So 137 plus 50, that's going to be about 87. That'll be our bullish trigger on this move. And let's see how this trade moves as we move forward here. See if we trigger it. There we go. We're about to trigger it. And bingo, we triggered it with a little reversal candle. Oh, those are the worst, because when you're doing something like this, in the real world, if you saw that, you wouldn't do it. But we got to do the quantitative side of this. So we're going to do that. So let's put this in here, 20. What was that date? That was July 3rd of 2007. 7307. 2.0187. And let's come over here and pull our stop in here. And we're going to do our initial stop at Kijun minus 50. So Kijun's at 99.09. which puts our stop down here at 98. Come on. There we go, 59. Okay. Now, you notice if you visually speaking, I think that's a little bit loose. I probably would visually tighten it up a little bit. But the 50 period buffer, the 50 pip buffer really sets that specifically. And, so we're going to follow that and test this out here, see what happens. Next day, we get another little reversal candle. This starts to make you pretty nervous, so I'm going to at least tighten this thing up to right in sync with Kijun. But frankly, let's go on up here to Senku A. And the reason I'm doing that is because I got some reversal candles up here, and obviously I don't know what's coming up in the future. And so anytime I start to have that, I get nervous about it, and we want to kind of tighten ship a little bit just in case the trade doesn't go the way we want it to go. Next day, we got a bearish candle here. That's not an evening star reversal, but you can make some conjecture that, hey, that's pretty bearish. You could go on up here to your 10 can if you wanted to. I'm going to leave it here with Senku. It gives us a little bit more cushion, and all things considered, and this is where some of your experience starts to come in. The difference in back here when I saw that happening, we really didn't have any higher highs or anything. Now we've got a sequence of higher highs and lows. And so I can make some conjecture. There's already some movement of trend here, and this thing may go ahead and take off. So I'm going to leave it a little bit looser. That's some of my own experience stepping in here and telling us what to do. Okay, let's stop right here. This is a bullish candle formation. Large white candle, large white candle. We got 4 days in the middle instead of 3, but it's basically a rising 3 candle formation. That's pretty bullish. So we'll leave all this. We'll leave all the trade set up as it is. Continue the next day forward. There's a breakout. Wonderful. Now, I don't need to adjust my stop. My stop really needs to come over here with Kijun, but since I'm already above it, I'm not going to adjust it down. I'm just going to leave it for the time being until something catches up with it here. Okay, so we'll leave it for the time being. Moving forward here, boom, there's another big bullish candle. We're good. I'm about in line with Kijun at this point, so let's go forward another day. And there's my first next bearish candle, a little bit bearish harami. Okay, now that starts to make me a little nervous, so I'm going to bring this back up to the top of Senku A here. Again, this is a tightening technique that I use to tighten these trades up. Next day, what happens? There's another little bullish candle. The only reason I like the loose Kijun for retracements. I don't like it for leaving me super exposed. So that's why you see me with that rule where I tighten it up. And then there's a big breakout. I'm just going to leave my stop until Kijun catches back up. This is a bullish move. Now, notice how far away I am. Remember my line down there? Never exceed. Sorry, not the never exceed. The one right before that, the money management. Adjust to 10 can if there's a very large profit at risk. Well, we entered at 2.0187, and we're now at 2.0491. That's a large profit in the world of Forex. So we're going to come exactly even with 10 can, tighten our stop up here because a couple of things. We got a large profit at risk, and we've got a little dark cloud cover candlestick formation. Next trading day, what happens? We continue higher. I'm going to tighten it further because I know at some point this is going to reverse on me, and I'm trying to lock in those profits. I don't know when, but I know it's coming. And every day I'm tightening my stop with 10 can because I'm very extended. Notice again how far away we are from the cloud. Notice how big our profit is. And I know that these kind of profits don't run forever. So I'm going to try to lock in as much as I can as the trend gets going here. There's another one, and there's a shooting star. Now, this is where you can start to take some liberties as you start to work these in your own. One day you're going to come along here and you're going to see a shooting star and you're going to say, I want to take my profit based on the shooting star. I'd be okay with that. For this trading system, we're just going to keep adjusting our stops here. All right, so let's go another day here. Boom, there's a big bearish candle. There's a bearish engulfing shooting star. It's almost an evening reversal. The only thing that makes it not an evening reversal is that first candle's not very big. Everything else about that's an evening star reversal. I'm going to keep our stop right in line with 10 can, and I expect we're going to stop out on the next candle. Boom, there it is. All right, 2.0460. So we're going to come over here, and we're going to say 2.0460. And then we got to do some math. So 460 minus 187. Oops, I typed that wrong. Sorry. 460 minus 187. We got a profit of 273 pips. We're not breaking even overall because we had that first trade that nabbed us, but everything else so far is looking pretty good. Now, I want to highlight something here because in our observations at the end, you're going to notice that this is really important, what I'm going to tell you. I would, in my actual trades, not in my back trading, in my actual trades, if I'm that profitable and I see a shooting star, I either take my profit or I tighten my stop so tight it's ridiculous because I'm happy with that profit at that point. I wanted to leave it at 10 cans so you would see the consequence of letting every trade stop out. In our final observations, we'll make some of these observations. This is always the case. You always make more if you can trade to a target and get out. Now, we don't have a target specified on this trade. And so since we don't, all we can go on are getting some candlestick reversals. We got that with the shooting star. And if you want to take your profits based on that, I'm okay with that. Had we done that, we would have closed that at 2.0612, which is 150 pips more. That's a pretty drastic move. And so I just want to draw your attention to that because in our final observations, that's going to be valuable for us here. All right. Sue, no trailing stops. I do not like trailing stops. I hate trailing stops. So you'll never hear me being an endorser of trailing stops. All right, let's keep moving forward here. We need to set up for new bullish alerts. Get our stops down here. By the way, whenever you get a big move like this, what's the most natural next step? Any ideas on that? Karen, the reason I didn't look left is I had already done that earlier for additional resistance. I did that earlier tonight, and I said there was nothing over there. Okay. The next step normally after such a big move is consolidation. And so we can anticipate that consolidation is probably next. Okay, now as a swing trader, you're going to be biting your fingernails because you're thinking, I just made 273 pips. I want to go make some more. But we're going to sit on our hands for a little bit and watch this thing retrace a little bit, see when we get a new clear signal of a bullish continuation. And by the way, I'll just draw your attention to this. Again, my experience, I've learned to notice these things. You can look at your clouds and you can see there's a bullish trend. So some of your old school line drawing still applies here. We're taking the signals from the clouds, but you can still say, well, predominantly I'm in a bullish move. Even though I may have some little red areas in here, predominantly I'm still bullish. So I just want to draw your attention to that. Okay. Let's continue moving up through here. Oh, boy, I really wanted to go through 2 years tonight. I don't know if I'm going to get that far. Okay, there's a bearish alert, but notice the alert was set on the right side of the cloud, and we're still not below the clouds. So we're going to reset the alert down here, and we'll say we'll wait because we're still well in those clouds. Okay, there we start to trigger the bearish alert, but we're still Chiku, still above the cloud. Well, if you go down your checklist, that is not part of the checklist. So go down your checklist. Price below the cloud, yes. Tin can below Kijun, yes. Chiku in the clear, not in the clear. So we're just going to have to wait. We'll go ahead and drop our alert again down to the next level, and we'll wait until that sucker alerts us. Okay, there's another alert. Same problem. Chiku is still not in the clear, so we'll just come a little bit lower. We'll say keep alerting us, and if everything finally adds up, then we'll take it. There's an alert. All right, so Chiku is starting to be in the clear. I'd like better clarification on that. The cloud is starting to cross bearish. So we're starting to be able to make all of our confirmations, but we're still not there. I think I'm going to go ahead and lower this again and say we'll do an alert down here around 96.20. We drop down there, maybe we start to get a bearish trade setting up. Let's see what happens. Sure enough, notice what's happening. Notice how the cloud's setting up, but Chiku got stuck. This is one of the things that's really cool about the cloud. I mean, if you did not see this picture on the cloud, let's go back over here without it. If you don't see that picture on the cloud, you might notice your support that you've got there, but man, this picture, just straight trading, you're thinking head and shoulders, this is probably the end of the world. This thing is going to just be tumbling because you don't see that perspective. But what the cloud gives you here is you're like, yeah, I would be expecting some consolidation based on what I see right now. I think that's a really powerful picture that we see here. Karen wants to know if I'd recalculate my my buffer. Karen, you can do that. I'm not super worried about it. I don't want a pre-built. I'll check it for you, Karen. It should stay about the same, to be honest with you. Come on, where's Wilders? There it is. All right, so your buffer or your ATR has increased to 161. It's not that big. If you want to increase your buffer a little bit, you can. I'm going to stick with the 50 because that's what I set out as the boundaries for this particular back trading. And so I'm going to keep it in there, and I'm not going to adjust it. That's normally the way that I would do that. But if you wish to, you can certainly go back and test that yourself, Karen. All right, let's continue moving forward. Let's see how much time we can get through. We've only got a few minutes of class left here, technically, but I'm going to go over a little bit. All right, move this sucker along here, and as we move along, we're stuck in consolidation. Notice how those alerts helped us. Notice how the clouds are helping us avoid consolidation. And tell me if it's true. As a trend trader, your biggest nightmare is consolidation, right? So that's what the cloud is helping us see very clearly. We're in the midst of consolidation. How many of you have gotten into great trades only to find you're consolidating? And it's the bane of every trader. It's the worst part of it. Okay, bingo, right there. So we just triggered our alert, our bullish alert. Let's see if the rest of our bullish checklist checks out. Are we above the cloud? Check. Tin can above Kijun? Check. Chiku in the clear? Check. No other obvious resistance. I think if we get above the highest high, we'll be in the clear on that. Future cloud is bullish? Check. Tin can pointing up? No. Tin can is not pointing up. However, with a higher move, tin can would point up. So we can set a trigger, and we could set this trigger and maybe say it's got a close above it. We could do something like that. We'll set a trigger in here at 2.0654 plus our 50. So that would be 704. All right, so let's move this sucker forward, see what happens based on that. And did we just trigger that? I think we did. Well, what was our high for the day? If you had a closing trigger, you obviously did not trigger it. If you had an intraday trigger, the high was 0703. That was the high. I'm getting that information. I'll bring your attention to it over here. You're going to see it right there. When I hover over the candle, there's the high, 0703. So we were 1 pip shy of getting triggered. Let's see what happens. And by the way, let's run our checklist here. Above the clouds, yes. Above the clouds. Tin can above Kijun, yes. Chiku in the clear, yes. Additional resistance, no, because we're at all-time highs here. Future cloud bullish, yes. Tin can pointing up, yes. All right, so let's see on the next trading day if this one triggers us. It probably will. Bingo. All right, 2.0704. That's our new entry on this trade. And that date is October, looks like the 31st. October the 31st. $2.0704. Before I even go any further, how many of you are fascinated that we've just traded almost an entire year and we've only taken 4 trades? That's a good clue that over trading may be a habit for a lot of you. Makes sense? Over trading is a major challenge for a lot of traders because they feel like they always want to be in a trade. And when we look at a system like this, we see how limiting the trades are and how limiting they probably should be. All right, 463 minus 50 would give us 16. So put that in there. By the way, I think you can do this faster on your own. It's slower for me to talk through it. All right, let's move this sucker forward and see how well this trade goes. Shooting star. What do I do with a shooting star? What do I do with a shooting star? I immediately adjust to Senku A. Okay, so Senku A puts me right up here. Next trading day, bullish candles. I'm good. Continuing the trade. There's a bearish engulfing candle. That's a pretty bearish signal. I've got some profit in here. I could take my profit. If you're scared, you don't have to wait to stop out. This is really what I prefer to do in my trades. If I have a 100 pip profit, I would rather take the 100 pips off the table, and that's right where I've got, versus let myself stop out. But since we're testing the system, we'll go ahead and adjust this up to Senku A, which is kind of split. Well, it's no kind of about it. It is splitting the difference between Tin Can and Kijun. All right, so we'll set that there, and let's move it forward another day. Bulls are back. And there we go. The trade continues. Now, Senku has far exceeded, Kijun, I should say, has far exceeded where we are. So we'll come back to trailing behind Kijun, and we'll just keep adjusting with Kijun until we see some reversals. And all things are chugging along nicely at this point. So we will continue. Boom. Big bearish engulfing candle. Now, at this point, you got a couple of 100 pips of profit. Everything in me says take the profit. In my system that we set up here, we're going to adjust our stop up to the top of Senku. Next trading day, boom, we're out of the trade at 2.0784. So we'll go notate that. 2.0784. And our profit on that was 80 pips. Okay? And we reset. And you just keep doing this. We just go further. I really wanted to get through 2 years of trading. Let's back trade to 745. We'll continue the back testing to 745. Then I'll do 15 minutes of observations, and then we'll call it a night, and we'll have a 2-hour class. Are you guys good with that? Can I have your permission to go that late? Okay, good. All right, let's continue then, and let's keep moving along, waiting for another trade setup. We'll get these stops and triggers out of here so they're not distracting to us. And all we're doing is we're testing a system. By the way, this is a system. You can test any system like this. This just happens to be the Ichimoku system that we're testing. But this technique that I'm using, you can use for anything. This is how you test a system. So we're moving this sucker forward, and that at least we'll get through 1 year. Who would like a year of Forex trading experience with Ichimoku? You just got it. We have just done an entire year, well, almost, of Ichimoku testing and experience. So you just got a year's worth of experience. It's the power of the replay feature here. All right, staying out of the trade until we start to get our bearish alert. Chiku's still in here. We still haven't hit the alert. We're good. Boom, 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 boom. Whoop, stop right there. Okay, so we just hit our alert. Now what I want to do is I want to set up our bearish trade possibility. And we want to set this thing up looking at our recent swing lows. Well, I got a lot of recent swing lows, so this may be a risky trade. But you notice that the cloud is bearish. Tin Can is below Kijun. We're below the clouds themselves. Chiku is somewhat in the clear. I mean, for all practical purposes, it's in the clear. We're under the cloud. Anytime you're under the cloud like this, you're going to run into a situation where you look left and the previous bullish trend is going to be a problem. it's a lot easier to have in the clear on a bullish trade than it is to have in the clear on a bearish trade. So you're always going to have these supports that will be a challenge. This support right here that you see, that's really the one we're at. So we'll look down a level here, and it looks like the next major support is around 98. If you felt comfortable taking one of those trades, you could. If you wanted to wait, the biggest recent support is the bottom of that cloud, and you see that flat cloud right there. That's really the biggest, most primary recent support. Now, you think about the risk that you're putting into this trade in terms of risk-reward. You got a pretty loose stop that's normally 200 or 300 pips. And right now the trade's at 99.79. Getting down to that trigger, which is around 96.40, is 300 pips itself. So, I think maybe, in my opinion, if we set the actual bearish trigger right here at 97.41, it's too risky because we're just right close to our next support. So I'm actually going to not set a bearish trigger. This is part of the experience that you get when you trade a bunch of these. I'm going to not set the bearish trigger, as tempting as it is, and I'm going to bring another bearish alert, and I'm going to say if I drop below that support, go ahead and tell me, but it's too risky. I got way too much support. And my system for checking this kind of keeps you in check for that. We're looking for, is there any other support that's found? No other obvious support. Well, there's obvious support back here in August. And back here in June, there's obvious support, and it's just way too close. So that's why I'm avoiding this bearish trade. Does that make sense? You guys seeing that? All right, let's move on. So let's see what we have here. I don't know what we're going to get. Moving on, and there's another bearish alert. But man, look how far I am from the cloud. See, in my experience, that scares me a little bit. Because I say, man, this thing really needs to retrace. But maybe it doesn't. Maybe we can put a bearish trigger in here around 90. Let's pull it up here. Let's see where we put it. Below support. There's my swing low at 96.17. And then we're going to subtract 50 from that. So we'll go 96.17 minus 50. 95.67. That'll be a bearish trigger on this. Let's see what happens. We've even got a kind of a bullish reversal candle on that. Let's watch this thing as it plays out. And there comes the retracement. I knew that was going to happen. I just felt it. It's too obvious. Okay, now this may set us up. We'll watch this. This could set us up for continuation. We got a fattening cloud, though. That leads to consolidation normally. We'll leave that in there. Keep watching. We've reaffirmed our bearish alert. Still have not gotten to our bearish trigger yet. And let's see what happens. Consolidation. And we actually hit our bearish trigger. So let's go ahead and get into this trade. 95.67. And there's really nothing telling us not to other than, concern. January 9th. All right. And 1.9567. And we'll move this, move our stop in here. Stop's going to start at key June plus 50. Key June's at 82. So we'll move this sucker up. Give ourselves a buffer in here. 82 is going to become 132. All right, again, notice that visually that's about what I normally would put into a buffer. So I don't care if you're that precise or not. All right, next day we got a little small spinning top candle here. We'll tighten up our stop just above our key June area here. Next day, move the sucker forward. We got a hammer down here. Now, a hammer at support. I'm going to look to the left and see how concerned I am. And I'm pretty concerned. I mean, the truth is that's really smack dab in the middle of support. I think we probably entered this trade a little early. And if I'm not testing a system, I'm probably getting out of the trade, and I'm going to say, yeah, I think I entered it too early. I think I was a little bit gun happy and wanted to shoot. But I think we entered that too early. What we're going to do is we're going to tighten our stop. And we're going to look for additional candles. We'll start by going to Senkou A. We'll set our stop there and see if we get any additional warnings. And that's an inverted hammer. So we'll just leave it there for a minute. And, it's consolidation, but it's not necessarily telling us that the trade's no good. So we got a lot of potential warnings, but, not necessarily freaking us out. You can leave your stop in there. If you want to tighten it into Senkou A, you can do that as well. We'll go ahead and do that. And boom, there's a bearish candle. This thing may continue bearish. Looks like there it goes. All right. So let's stop. Let's take an observation from this because this is really valuable. Everything in me told me that this was risky, but we're following the signals. I didn't over-tighten the stop. I tightened it to Senkou A, which gave me some better protection, but it let the trade have some room to go, and sure enough, the trade moved, and we've actually got a bearish trade on our hands. So let's continue here. Well, there's a reversal on us. Bullish engulfing reversal pattern. I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to go with Senkou A. That's splitting the difference in Tin Can and Kijun. And continue here. And there we're stopped out at 96.67. So we end up with a small losing trade on this, 1.9667. But notice what we didn't do. We did not leave ourselves extremely vulnerable. That was right at 100 pip loss. Okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to, I don't have anywhere to put these things. Put our bullish trigger above the cloud, bullish alert, I should say, above the cloud. Pull our little triggers over here, and we'll keep trading this sucker. We need to drop back down. Bearish alert around 195.09. All right, trade this sucker forward. What happens? Getting into some consolidation, obviously. And we're back into our alert. So we'll bring our bearish trigger down here to our swing low. And let's run our checklist real fast. Are we below the cloud? Yes, we're below the cloud. Is Tin Can below Kijun? Yes, it's below the Kijun. Is Chiku in the clear? It's pretty much in the clear. As soon as we drop on down here, by the time we hit that trigger, it would be in the clear. Do we have any other obvious support in the way? Well, we do have a little bit right here. And again, anytime you're trading retracements here, you're always going to have some more support under the cloud than you have resistance over the cloud. So, yes, we've got some there. I think we're probably going to have to take this trade because the next one's going to be much, much lower here. It makes more sense to get into this one. Future cloud is bearish, absolutely. And Tin Can is not quite pointing down, but it will be if it breaks down another level here. So we'll go ahead and set that up for swing low, minus 50. It's 335 minus 50 puts us at 285. Bingo. All right, let's see if this trade triggers. Continue. And nope. Looks like the consolidation continues. A lot of times this will trade right over to the cloud. So we'll just keep moving it forward here. And look at that. We're trading up into the cloud, well into the cloud at this point. Consolidation continues. And yet again, our rules have helped us avoid a nasty consolidation. So thank you, rules. Okay, now we've got some nice retracement that has happened, and it looks like we might have a continuation, but we've got to get below the clouds. We're basically waiting for another bearish alert to get triggered for us here. Or bullish continuation. The clouds have turned bullish here, so we can that's a possibility, but we haven't hit the bullish alert, obviously. Let's continue here to get out of all the cloudiness. And consolidation abounds. You're going to notice that this happens a lot in currencies where we get stuck in long periods of consolidation that can go for months. Okay, we're starting to get maybe set up again. Notice how close we are to our previous bearish alert. We still actually had our bearish trigger. Nothing's really changed about that. And the Chiku's back below the clouds, so let's see what happens here. We actually re-alerted this thing right here, and actually this looks a lot better because notice how the clouds are starting to angle bearish. These guys are in line. Chiku's starting to become in the clear. We break down below here, except for that one support we had a ways back. We really don't have much below that. And we're still stuck in consolidation. So Merry Christmas to all as we come into June 2000. And we're still stuck in consolidation. It looks like we're going to make it throughout the summer here, getting into July. For whatever reason, the pound dollar was not too active during this time. All right, let's come over here, and we can probably set a bullish trigger, bullish alert up in here. And I'm going to adjust our bearish alert. We really just don't have a trade set up right now. Lots of consolidation. We'll set our bearish alert down in here, just kind of adjusting these, waiting for the trade to set up. And by the way, look what's happened. We've gone from, February into July here with no trade, just pure consolidation. Compare that with this picture right here. And again, you might have been trying to place those trades and get in and get out, and you might have been very frustrated. The cloud's helping you avoid a lot of the noise. And remember, that's one of the major reasons that the cloud was invented, was to help avoid the noise, okay? Oh, boom, boom, boom. We got a bullish alert. It has not triggered, but we got a bullish alert here. And so we might want to come to the swing high and set a bullish trigger up here. We could come to the higher swing high. That may be a little bit more comforting given the amount of consolidation we've had. I think it might be. I would be okay with either one of these. If you want to go strictly on quantitative analysis here, we would probably take the most recent swing high point here. So we can do that. Take the most recent swing high point. That's about 2.158. We're going to adjust that up by 50 pips. So that becomes 22. Or just 208, I should say, not 2208. All right, there you have that. That'll be our bullish trigger if we get up there. I mean, right now it looks like consolidation is king, so I'm not too worried about it. And none of the signals are lining up for that, really. So even though we kind of set that bullish trigger up, I think I actually would not put that into my trading platform. We're just waiting for a trade to trigger. I can't believe I picked a pair that didn't move. All right, let's see if we get... bingo. Okay, back into our alert status here, and not just the alert of the bearish trade, but look here. Our previous swing low was way back here. That's where we had the bearish trigger before. We actually just triggered that. Now, we're a day late on that, so we will put our trigger at today's lowest low minus 50 pips. That'll be our buffer. $0.95. And let's see what happens on this thing. First of all, let's do our checklist. We're below the clouds, obviously. Chiku and Tin Can and Kijun are good. Chiku is good. Everything's pointing down. We're in the clear once we got below that long time ago resistance or support. Where was that? We just blew. Well, we stopped there today. That's where we stopped. All right, so this new trigger actually gets us in there. Now, this is ironic because remember I told you earlier, back in February, we set the trade up based on this swing low, and it turns out that we actually, had we just set that trigger based on that support back in February, we still would have had it here. We'll just leave that in there. And let's see where this trade goes. Now, we are quite a ways away, so this may get an immediate retracement. Next day, we trigger the trade. So what's the date on that? August 11. Let's come back over here. We just went months without trading this thing. Now we're into August 11, 2008. And we're bearish at 1.9095. All right. We're going to set a stop in here above Key June. Key June's reading at 96.11. We'll add 50 to that. That puts us at 96.61. There's our buffer. Let's continue trading this sucker forward here. All right, boom, big bearish day. Oops, I forgot to adjust my stop. We'll adjust it down here. Keep adjusting your stops, and so far this trade's doing well. Now, I'm a little bit nervous because that's quite a ways. That's a pretty good move, but I don't have any reversal signals yet, so we'll let that go for a little bit. There's my first indication, and just because I've gone so far, I mean, we entered at 9095, and we already went 400 pips. So we'll come over here and we'll adjust this thing down. And this happens, probably central banking announcements. I don't know what was going on, but hammer down here. We'll just keep adjusting with Senkou A. Keep making that adjustment there. Another hammer, a little bullish engulfing. If you want to take your profits there based on candles, I'm really good with that. But we're going to keep testing our system here. Keep adjusting with Senkou A. See if we can get close to the end of this year before we run out of time. All right, keep adjusting here, and there's a pretty good-sized bullish candle. You might want to adjust to 10 can at that point simply because of the amount of profit that we've got in this trade. If you want to let it ride, you can do that. Either way, you would have still been in that next drop, so it doesn't really matter where you set it. You still would have been in that next drop. We will continue because of that doji there at the bottom. Big bullish candle. And we'll continue. You can adjust every day if you want to with Senkou A. Or you can wait for Key June to catch up. That would be such a large... It wouldn't make sense, actually. Take a look at this, and let me show you why. I mean, we entered at 90.95. Key June is above that. I mean, we've got 700 pips of profit. If you set your stop where you'd be losing money, it would be ridiculous. It's just not the smart thing to do. So at least use Senkou A. 10 can's almost always going to be too tight. So, you'll get whipsawed on 10 can. But you can use Senkou A, and it works really well. And that's what I'm using right now since we got such a large profit in this trade at this point. Continue moving our bearish stop down. Locking in profit. And this trade's obviously continuing. This feels like the Japanese yen trade last year. And we'll just keep moving this sucker down. Now, we are so far from the cloud at this point that there's going to be a whipsaw back at some point. You don't know when, but it's going to whip back. But at this point, you just keep trading it. Okay, so we keep running this thing forward. And obviously, we found the primary trend. We finally found it. I knew over a 2-year period we'd find one in there. All right, here we go. Starting to slow down a little bit. Now I'm paying attention to these stops. I'm going to start tightening them up here, Senkou A. And somehow the bears keep selling the pound. Okay, we'll keep going. Up, boom, there we go. Okay, now that starts to tell us that the retracement is coming. There's some sort of retracement coming. You could take your profit if you want to. If you want to leave your stop at Senkou A, we can do that as well. We'll do that for this because we're kind of testing the system. And there we stopped out at 8084. All right, so we got about 1,000 pips on that trade. Let's come over here and document that. 1.8084. And that is 1,011 pips that we just pulled in. Okay, so that was a nice couple of months there. And what do we do next, class? Well, we go set up our new boundaries. Set up. This thing could just as easily flip around and go back to the bullish side. So we'll put a bullish alert above the cloud. Chiku probably will not be clear at that point, but we'll still put the alert there. and we'll sit out. We'll sit on our hands. Now, this is the hardest time for you to sit on your hands. This is the time when you're thinking to yourself, I got to go make some more. You just made 1,000 pips, and you are absolutely prepared for this thing to keep making you money. This is exactly the time you need to sit on your hands, and let's see what happens. Well, there's another bearish candle. Now, this is a bearish evening star reversal, so you can say, well, I may get a reversal, but look how fat the cloud is. This is the ideal spot for consolidation, so let's wait. Sit on your hands. Don't be so anxious to go back into the trade, and boom, there's another day of retracement. I bet we're going to get a good-sized retracement here. There it comes. Look at that. I mean, it's just like clockwork that after such a big move, you get a good retracement. And look at the cloud there. And now Chiku's all caught up. And we got some bears coming back in. But we're stuck again in retracement here. Now we're coming down into our bearish alert. There we alert for a bearish trade. Okay. So now we got another bearish trade alert. Let's run our checklist. Are we below the cloud? Yes, we're below the cloud. Chiku and Tin Can, yep. They're no, actually, Tin Can and Kijun are not crossed over yet. Tin Can is still on top. Notice that? See the red lines? Tin Can is on top. So we need to wait one more day before we can do this. Now, if we continue bearish, we can do it because that sucker will go on below there. Chiku would be in the clear. Do we have any support historically here? And we are coming into some pretty major support. So there's a good chance that this would be a problem moving forward. We could wait and get below that, or if you want to just test the entry, we'll test the entry. For the sake of just testing the entry, we'll do that. You could make this decision in your own trading account when you're doing that. But for this system testing, we'll go ahead and test the entry. 73.28 minus 50. That'll be our entry. Tin Can will have crossed at that point. So that's going to go 2. It was 28, so we're going to go 78. 72.78 will be our bearish entry. All right, and let's see what happens. Still pretty thick clouds. Good chance for consolidation. And that may be, well, we just triggered it there for better or worse. All right. That's October the 8th, 7278. So we'll go mark it over here. 10.808. 1.7276. All right. You know what's going on here. I just figured this out. I knew something was going on. I was like, man, that's a really strong trend. This is the financial crisis. It just hit me. Now, notice what happened. The signals got us into a big move like the financial crisis. That's why we're seeing all this volatility in here. It's the financial crisis, and the clouds got us into it really perfectly here. It's perfect. It's exactly what we needed. All right, so let's see how this thing goes. Let's see if it kept falling. And boom, there it is. I forgot my stop. Sorry about the stop, guys. So we'll pull our stop in here above Kijun. Kijun plus 50, and we're good to go. Here we go. Boom. Now, there is a hammer. Now, when you get a hammer like that, you want to lower your stop down to Senku. Lock in some of your profit on this. Now, this would still leave us exposed. You could just close the trade and make another couple hundred pips on that, and I'd be tempted to do that. Let's see what happened. Boom. We're starting to retrace a little bit. We just stopped out. Okay, so 7558 is where we got out, 1.7558, and that is a loss. I got to do my calculator here. We got 558 minus 276. And it's 282 pips loss. All right. In the interest of time, I think we should shut this thing down here. Somebody look at those numbers and do the math for me, if you would, please. Calculate the P&L and tell me what we didn't quite get 2 years. Well, we were pretty close. We didn't quite get the 2 years there. But somebody calculate that P&L there and tell me what we ended up with. And Then we'll have some observations here. Minus 346 plus 9 plus 273 plus 80 minus 100, 10, 11, 282. Somebody calculate 645 to the positive. Okay. So we traded for a couple years, and we're up for 645 pips. Now, that's a pretty sizable drawdown that we just took there, and ultimately I would like for you to lower that a little bit. But I think what this gave us here, and this was the intention of this exercise, is it gave us a pretty good idea of what the system on its own is good for.